She was the pack's phantom, the wolfless girl living in the shadow of the mountain, scorned by the very people she was forced to call family. He was a myth, a king, the alpha of all alphas, ruling 1,000 packs from a throne of iron and shadow. Their worlds were never meant to collide. But on a night of thunder and betrayal, the river brought him to her. Bleeding, broken and trapped in the body of a wolf, he was just another stray, or so she thought. She pulled a wounded wolf from the water, never dreaming she was saving the one man whose life held the world in balance. The storm was a primal thing, clawing at the small cabin with jealous fury. For Anna Thorne, it was just noise. The real storm was the one that lived inside her chest, a hollow ache where a wolf's heart should have been. Anna was 22 years old and a ghost in her own pack. Born into the Silver Moon pack, she was a cruel twist of fate, a wolfless human. In their world, power was everything. It was the snap of jaws, the strength of the shift, the rank you held. Anna had none of it. She was less than an omega. She was a dud, a genetic dead end, a servant by default. Her parents, long dead, had been respectable, but their legacy had died with their wolfless daughter. Now she lived on the far outskirts of the territory, in a tiny moss-covered cabin her great-grandmother, another pack outcast, a herbalist suspected of human magic, had built. It suited Alpha Gregor just fine. Out of sight, out of mind. Tonight, the storm's violence had a purpose. It was masking her movements. The pounding rain and crack of thunder would cover the sound of her slipping through the woods. She needed herbs, specifically bloodleaf and moon petal, which only grew near the turbulent Blackwood River, and this storm would bring them to the surface. Her meager supplies were running low, and the pack's quartermaster, a sneering wolf named Silas, had forgotten her rations again. Wrapping a threadbare oilskin cloak around her thin frame, Anna stepped out into the chaos. The wind ripped at her, stinging her pale skin. She was small, but wiry, her dark hair plastered to her face in seconds. The forest was a thrashing sea of black branches. She kept her head down, her feet clad in worn leather boots, finding the familiar, muddy path by memory alone. The Blackwood River was a monster. Usually a swift, dark ribbon, it was now a raging brown beast, swollen and angry, chewing at its banks. Trees were ripped from the earth and tossed like twigs. The roar was deafening. Anna skirted the edge, her eyes scanning the churned-up banks for the telltale shimmer of the herbs. That's when she saw it. At first, it was just a dark mass, larger than a log, snagged on a tangle of fallen branches near the opposite bank. It was too big to be a deer, a bear maybe. She squinted, wiping the rain from her eyes. The mass moved. It wasn't a bear, it was a wolf. A massive, impossibly large wolf. It was caught, its back leg tangled in the debris, the current pulling it under. It was still alive, but barely. Its head lifted, a movement of pure, agonizing effort, before falling back. Anna's breath hitched. Her pack's rules were absolute. Never interfere with a rogue, a lone wolf. They were dangerous, exiled for a reason, and this was no Silver Moon wolf. It was 3 times the size of their largest alpha. Its fur, where it wasn't matted with blood, was the color of a moonless night. She should have turned back, run to her cabin, barred the door, and forgotten she ever saw it. It was the smart thing to do. It was the safe thing to do. But as she watched, the wolf's head went under the rushing water and didn't immediately come back up. "Damn it," she whispered, the word stolen by the wind. She didn't think. She just moved. Anna scrambled down the muddy embankment, grabbing a thick, partially submerged branch. She plunged into the freezing water, the shock of it stealing her breath. The current was a physical blow, trying to drag her downstream. She wasn't a wolf. She had no supernatural strength. She was just a girl, and a small one at that. She fought the river, her arms screaming, her legs numb. The branch was her anchor. She jammed it into the riverbed, half swimming, half crawling toward the trapped animal. The wolf saw her. Its head broke the surface, and it snarled, a deep, rattling sound that vibrated through the water. Its eyes, a startling electric blue even in the gloom, fixed on her. They weren't just animal eyes. They were filled with rage, pain, and intelligence. "I'm trying to help you," she screamed over the storm. She reached the tangle. The wolf snapped at her, its jaws closing inches from her face. She flinched, but held her ground. "Hold still, you giant fool, or we'll both drown." Its leg was badly twisted, caught in a V of thick branches. Blood poured from a dozen wounds on its flank and shoulders, gashes that looked suspiciously like claw marks. This wolf hadn't just fallen in. It had been attacked. Her fingers were numb, but she worked frantically at the branches, the rough bark tearing at her skin. The wolf panted, its massive chest heaving. It was too weak to fight her and the river. Finally, with a desperate, full-body heave, she snapped the branch. The wolf was free, but so was the current's full force. The animal was swept away, and in a moment of pure, suicidal instinct, Anna grabbed a fistful of its fur. She was dragged under, cold water filling her lungs. This was it. This is how she died, drowned in a storm, trying to save a monster that would have killed her. But then, a powerful force propelled them upward. The wolf, despite its injuries, was using its last ounce of strength to kick toward the bank. They hit the mud on her side of the river, a heap of fur, girl, and icy water. Anna coughed, vomiting river water, shaking so hard she thought her bones would crack. The wolf lay beside her, a mountain of black fur, unmoving. "Oh, moons," she panted, crawling toward it. "Don't you die on me. Not after I did all that." She put her hand on its ribs. There was a faint, shallow rise and fall. He was alive. She looked at the wolf. She looked at her cabin, a quarter-mile up the hill. She looked at her own hands, raw and bleeding. "You are going to be the death of me," she muttered. But she couldn't leave him. The predators, or her own pack, would find him by morning. Gritting her teeth, Anna found a discarded, thick piece of canvas she used for hauling wood. Getting the wolf onto it was the hardest thing she'd ever done. He was pure, dead-weight muscle. She slipped, she fell, she cried in frustration, but finally, she got him settled. She looped a rope around her waist and began to pull. Every step was agony. The mud sucked at her boots. Her back screamed. The wolf was a dead weight, a boulder, but the girl who had been called weak her entire life, the girl who had carried the burden of her pack's scorn, just set her jaw and pulled. It took her 2 hours to drag the wolf up the hill. 2 hours of slipping, falling, and sobbing in the mud. The storm had lessened to a steady, cold drizzle by the time she reached the dubious safety of her cabin. The small, one-room structure was more of a shack, but it was hers. The door was too small. The wolf was too big. "You are not staying on my porch," she gasped, her body trembling with exhaustion. She couldn't get him inside. But there was another option. Beside the cabin, hidden under a mound of overgrown ivy and a heavy, waterlogged wooden trapdoor, was her great-grandmother's root cellar. It was deep, dry, and most importantly, hidden. No one in the pack knew about it. With a groan, Anna heaved the trapdoor open. The hinges screamed in protest. The smell of damp earth and stored herbs rose to meet her. She slid down the short ladder, lit a tallow candle and stared at the space. It was just big enough. Getting the wolf down was another nightmare. She managed it by half sliding, half lowering him on the canvas, nearly breaking her own neck in the process. He landed with a heavy, wet thud on the dirt floor. She stood over him, panting. The candle flame cast flickering, monstrous shadows. The wolf was a creature of nightmare, his black fur slick with mud and blood. His breathing was dangerously shallow. "All right," Anna whispered, as much to herself as to the unconscious beast. "Let's see what you got yourself into." She fetched her healing supplies, a bucket of clean water, old rags, her sharpest knife, and her precious stash of herbs. She worked quickly, her fear replaced by a focused calm. This, she knew. Healing was her great-grandmother's magic, the only thing she'd ever been good at. She washed the mud away, her hand skimming over solid muscle and thick fur. The wounds were horrific. Deep, parallel claw marks raked his flank. A puncture wound on his shoulder, almost perfectly round, looked like it had been made by a silver-tipped arrow. Silver. That was bad. It poisoned the blood, stopped the healing. "Who did this to you?" she murmured, trimming the fur away from the silver wound. It was festering already, the flesh a sickly purple. She worked for an hour, cleaning the wounds, pulling out 3 broken arrowheads, none silver, thank the moons, and stitching the worst of the gashes with a needle and gut thread. The silver wound was the last. She made a thick green poultice of crushed willow bark, comfrey, and a touch of her rarest herb, moon petal. She slathered it onto the wound, and the wolf twitched, a low growl rumbling in its chest, even in unconsciousness. "Shh, shh," she soothed, her hand automatically stroking his massive head. "It's all right. I'm helping." She sat back on her heels, exhausted but finished. The wolf was bandaged as best she could. She'd done all she could. Now it was up to his own body. She covered him with several old, dry blankets, though they looked like postage stamps on his enormous frame. She climbed out of the cellar, secured the trap door, and dragged her mud-caked body inside her cabin. She stripped off her wet clothes, collapsing onto her small cot, and fell into a dead sleep, the roar of the river replaced by the sound of a wounded giant breathing beneath her floor. She woke to a sound. It wasn't the storm, it was a snap, like a large branch breaking. Anna sat bolt upright, her heart hammering. Sunlight was streaming through her one small window. It was morning. The sound came again, from directly below her. A crack, followed by a deep, pained groan that didn't sound like any animal she'd ever heard. It sounded human. She froze. Had the pack found her? Had they found the wolf? Then came a third sound, the unmistakable, wet, agonizing sound of bones cracking, shifting, and reforming. It was the sound of the shift. Anna's blood turned to ice. She scrambled off the cot, grabbing the heaviest thing she owned, a cast-iron skillet. She crept to the cellar door in her small cabin's main room. This one was a false front, leading to the same cellar, and listened. A string of curses, low and guttural, echoed up from the darkness. "Damned silver! Lycan, you bastard! I'll kill you!" It was a man's voice, deep, raw, and filled with a power that vibrated through the floorboards. He wasn't a rogue wolf. He was a werewolf, and he was awake, and he was in her cellar. Her hand trembled on the door's handle. He was wounded, but a wounded werewolf was still a werewolf. He could kill her in a second, but she couldn't just leave him down there. He was healed or healing, and he would be confused and angry. Taking a deep breath, Anna unbarred the door and slowly, cautiously, pulled it open. "Hello?" she called down into the darkness. The groaning stopped. A heavy, predatory silence filled the space. "Who's there?" the man's voice demanded. It wasn't a question, it was a command, an alpha command. Anna felt the primal, human part of her brain scream at her to submit, to bow. It was a terrifying, overwhelming sensation. I own this cabin," she said, her voice shaking. "You're in my cellar." She grabbed the candle from her table, lit it, and started down the steps. "Stay back," he warned. She ignored him, her feet hitting the dirt floor. She held the candle aloft. He was propped against the far wall, on the pile of her blankets. The flickering light revealed him, and Anna's breath left her body. He was not just a man. He was a god or a demon. He was the most formidable-looking human she had ever seen. He was naked, his body a roadmap of corded muscle, and, now, the fresh, stitched wounds she had tended. He had broad shoulders, a lean waist, and a face that looked carved from granite. Dark, wet hair fell into his eyes, the same electric blue eyes she'd seen in the wolf. They were fixed on her, narrowed in suspicion and pain. He was magnificent, and he was her prisoner. He looked down at his own body, at the stitched wounds on his torso, and then at the green poultice on his shoulder. He touched it, then looked at his fingers, then back at Anna. "You did this?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. Anna just nodded, unable to speak, the skillet still held uselessly at her side. "You pulled me from the river," he stated, more a realization than a question. "I remember a scent. Herbs and rain, that was you." "You were a wolf," she whispered. "I didn't know." He tried to stand, a growl of frustration leaving his lips as his legs buckled. The silver poisoning. It was still in his system. He slumped back against the wall, breathing heavily. The sheer, naked power radiating off him, even in this weakened state, was suffocating. "Who are you?" he demanded. "What pack is this?" "This is Silver Moon territory," Anna said, finding her voice. "I am Anna Thorne. I'm no one." The man's blue eyes bored into her, seeming to strip her soul bare. He saw her worn clothes, her small frame, the fear in her eyes. "You're not no one," he said, his voice surprisingly soft, though still full of iron. "You are the woman who saved my life." He pushed himself up again, this time managing to get to one knee. "My name is Kaelin." He paused, as if expecting the name to mean something to her. Anna just stared. "Kaelin? It was a nice name." He sighed, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "Just Kaelin, then, for now. Anna Thorne of the Silver Moon. I am in your debt." You need to be quiet," Anna said, her panic suddenly returning. "If my pack finds you, a strange werewolf, they'll kill you, and they'll kill me for helping you." Kaelin's expression darkened. "Your pack, from the scent on you, the lack of a wolf, they do not treat you well." Anna flinched. "It doesn't matter. You're in danger. I'm in danger. You have to stay hidden." "I do not hide," he growled. "You will if you want to live," she snapped, her fear momentarily eclipsed by frustration. "You're half poisoned by silver, and your whole body is stitched together. You're in no condition to not hide." The blue eyes widened, just a fraction. No one spoke to him that way. But then, the faint smile returned. "Very well, Anna Thorne. I will hide. For now." He gestured to his naked body. "But if we are to be allies, do you think you could find me some clothes?" Anna's cabin was not equipped for a guest, let alone one who was built like a mountain. The only men's clothes she had were a pair of her long-dead father's trousers and a rough-spun tunic, stored in a cedar chest. She dropped them down into the cellar, her cheeks burning. "They'll be small," she called down, not daring to go back down the steps. She heard a rustle, a grunt of effort, and then his voice, closer. They will do. He emerged from the cellar, climbing the steps one by one. Anna backed away until her spine hit the far wall. The daylight that filled her cabin revealed what the candle had only hinted at. The trousers were, as predicted, far too short, ending mid-calf. The tunic strained against the muscles of his chest and shoulders, the fabric pulling so tight it looked like it would split. But it was the man himself. He filled her small cabin, his presence sucking all the air out of the room. He was tall, well over 6 feet, and even weakened, he moved with a fluid, predatory grace. His dark hair was drying in damp waves, and his electric blue eyes missed nothing. They scanned her cabin, taking in the drying herbs, the small cot, the empty shelves. "You live like this?" he asked. It wasn't a judgment, just an observation. "I live," Anna retorted, crossing her arms. "Which is more than you would be doing if I hadn't found you. Sit down. You look like you're about to fall over." He gave her a sharp look, but she was right. A fine tremor was running through his arms, and his face was pale beneath his olive skin. He sat heavily on her one rickety chair, which groaned in protest. "The silver," he said, touching the poultice on his shoulder. "It's still burning." "It will for a while," Anna said, moving to her herb table. She began to grind ingredients in a mortar. "Silver poisoning is a deep sickness. My poultice will draw it out, but it takes time. You need to drink this." She mixed the herbs with hot water, the scent of earth and leaves filling the room. She handed him the steaming mug. He sniffed it, his nose wrinkling. "What is it?" "Yarrow and milk thistle. It will cleanse your blood. Drink it." He raised an eyebrow at her commanding tone, but obeyed. He drained the mug in one long swallow, his eyes never leaving her. "You're a healer," he stated. "I know herbs," she corrected. "My great-grandmother taught me. Before the pack. Before she died." "They don't value that? A healer?" Anna gave a short, bitter laugh. "They value strength, claws, fangs. I have neither. To them my herbs are just human nonsense." Kalen set the mug down, his gaze intense. "Humanity is not a weakness, Anna. Compassion. It is a strength few wolves possess." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the crackle of her small hearth. "Who are you, Kalen?" Anna finally asked. "Who tried to kill you?" His face hardened, the warmth vanishing, replaced by a cold fury that made her skin prickle. "I was ambushed," he said, his voice dropping to a low growl. "Betrayed. By Alpha Marcus of the Shadow Ridge Pack. He called for a treaty parley at the Three Falls. I went with only 2 of my guard. It was a trap." "Shadow Ridge? They're 2 territories away," Anna said, her eyes wide. "Their reputation is dark." "Marcus is a butcher," Kalen spat. "He and his wolves. They're not pack, they're a disease. They tore my guards apart. Lycan and Valerius." A flicker of deep, profound pain crossed his face. "They hit me with silver arrows. I shifted, fought back, but I was outnumbered and poisoned. I ran. I don't know how long. I just ran until the river took me." "So you're a rogue," Anna whispered, her heart sinking. "A rogue at war with an entire pack. She'd saved a dead man." Kalen's head snapped up. "I am not a rogue." "But you have no pack. You're alone, hunted." "I am not alone," he said, his voice suddenly so full of authority it made the very air shimmer. "My pack is the Crimson Fang, and they are looking for me." Anna's blood ran cold. The Crimson Fang. It wasn't a pack. It was a legend. They were the royal pack, the pack to which all other packs in the northern continent owed fealty. They were led by... Her eyes dropped from his face to his left arm, where the tunic sleeve was pushed up. She hadn't noticed it in the cellar. A tattoo. It was dark, intricate, covering his bicep. It was a snarling wolf's head, crowned with a ring of stylized sunfire. The sigil of the royal house of Vorlag. "Oh gods," she breathed, taking a step back. You're not... Kalen." He stood up, the chair scraping against the floor. He was no longer a wounded rogue. He was a king. "I am Kalen Valerius Vorlag," he said, his voice resonating with power. "Alpha of the Crimson Fang, and king of the Northern Protectorate." Anna's legs gave out. She sank onto her cot, her head spinning. She hadn't just saved a werewolf. She hadn't just saved an alpha. She had pulled the Alpha King from the river, the single most powerful, and now the single most hunted. Man on the continent was standing in her tiny mud-caked cabin, wearing her dead father's too small pants. This is bad," she stammered. "This is so bad." "Marcus has committed an act of high treason," Kalen continued, pacing her small floor like a caged lion. "He has tried to murder the king. This is an act of war. He must have an ally, someone on the council. Lycan." He slammed his fist into the wall, and the entire cabin shook. Plaster dust rained from the ceiling. "Stop it!" Anna shrieked, jumping to her feet. "You'll bring the whole house down. I don't care if you're the king of the universe. You are still in my house, and you are still hiding." Kalen stopped, breathing hard. He looked at his fist, then at the crack he'd made in her wall, then at her. She was terrified, but she was standing her ground. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. "You are," he said, his voice full of wonder, "the first person to yell at me in a decade." "Well, get used to it if you keep breaking my things," Anna said, her heart still trying to escape her chest. "Now, Your Majesty," she said, the title tasting strange and sarcastic. "Sit down, you're bleeding again." She was right. The force of his punch had reopened one of the stitches on his arm. He sat, his arrogance deflating slightly, and held out his arm. As she worked, restitching the wound with steady hands, their proximity was intense. She could feel the heat radiating from his skin. She could smell his scent, not just wet wolf, but something deeper, like pine, ozone, and clean iron. "My pack thinks I am dead," he said quietly, watching her work. "Marcus will move fast. He'll try to seize the capital, force the council to recognize him. He may already have." "How?" Anna asked. "If you're king, there are old laws. A king who cannot be found for 7 days is presumed dead. The challenge can be made. It has been 3 days. I have 4 days to get back to Silverglen and expose him." "Silverglen is 500 miles from here." "I know," he said, his jaw tight, "and I cannot do it like this." He looked at his shaking hands. "The silver, it's grounding me. I can't even force a partial shift." "You need to heal," Anna said, "completely, and for that, you need to stay hidden." "And what of your pack?" he countered. "You said they would kill you. Will they not come looking for you?" A shadow crossed Anna's face. "They don't care enough to look for me. The only one who ever comes out here is—" She stopped. "Who?" Kalen pressed. "Jared Stone," Anna said, her voice turning cold. "The Alpha's son. He likes to remind me of my place." Kalen's eyes narrowed to slits. "Remind you?" "He's a bully," Anna said, tying off the stitch. "And he's arrogant, but he's also the future Alpha. It's best to just stay out of his way." As if summoned by the very words, a sharp, heavy pounding echoed through the cabin. Bang! 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 "Anna, open this door, you useless mutt!" A voice roared from outside. Anna went white. She looked at the door, then at the Alpha King, and her world shrank to a single point of pure, undiluted terror. It was Jared. Caelan was on his feet in an instant, the pain and weakness forgotten, replaced by a lion's protective crouch. "Who is that?" he growled. "Jared," Anna whispered, her hands flying to her mouth. "It's the Alpha's son. Hide! Hide now! I do not—" "You said you would," she hissed, pushing him. "The cellar. Now, Caelan, please." The urgency in her voice, the sheer terror, finally broke through his pride. He gave her one last hard look and slipped back into the cellar, pulling the door closed over his head. Bang! 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 "I know you're in there, Thorn. Get out here, or I'm kicking this flimsy door down." Anna took a shaky breath, smoothing her hair and trying to slow her frantic heartbeat. She unbarred the door and opened it just a crack. "Jared, what do you want?" Jared Stone was everything Caelan was not. Where Caelan was solid, carved power, Jared was a fleshy, overconfident bully. He was tall, but soft, with his father's piggish eyes and a permanent sneer. He was flanked by two of his lackeys, Ben and Liam, both of whom looked equally dim-witted and cruel. Jared shoved the door open, sending Anna stumbling back. He sauntered into her small cabin, his muddy boots tracking filth all over her clean floor. "That's not how you greet your future Alpha," Jared sneered, looking around in disgust. "Gods, it smells like weeds in here. What have you been doing, Mutt? Brewing potions?" Ben and Liam snickered, crowding in behind him. "I was cleaning," Anna said, her voice flat. She kept her body positioned between them and the cellar door. "What do you want, Jared?" "What do I want?" He laughed, taking a step closer. He was too close. She could smell the stale beer on his breath. "I was bored. Dad's busy with pack business, so I thought I'd come out and check on our least valuable asset." He reached out and grabbed a lock of her hair, twisting it. "You're looking peaky, Anna. Not eating enough of the scraps we leave you. Let go of me, Jared." "Ooh, feisty." He twisted harder, making her wince. "You know, I was just down by the river. Saw a lot of damage from the storm. And I found this." He reached into his pocket and threw something on her table. It was a scrap of black cloth, matted with blood. Anna's blood froze. It was from the canvas she'd used. "Lots of blood down there," Jared said, his eyes narrowing. "A lot of blood. And a strange scent. Not Silvermoon, and not animal. Looked like someone dragged something heavy up the hill, right toward your cabin." Anna's heart was a drum. I don't know what you're talking about. It was probably a deer. A bear, maybe." "A bear," Jared laughed. "You? Drag a bear? Don't make me laugh." He stepped closer, backing her against the wall. His eyes roamed over her. "So what is it, Anna? You got a visitor? A little rogue boyfriend you're hiding?" "Get out of my house," she said, her voice shaking. "Or what?" Jared snarled. He slammed his hand against the wall next to her head, the wood rattling. "You'll what? You'll puff some herbs at me. You're nothing, Anna. You're a wolfless stain on this pack. I could kill you right here, and my father would thank me for taking out the trash." He leaned in, his face inches from hers. "Now, I'm going to search this dump. And if I find you're hiding something, anything..." From beneath the floorboards, a low, guttural growl vibrated through the cabin. It was so deep it sounded more like an earthquake than a sound. Jared froze. "What was that?" It's just the house settling," Anna lied, her palms sweating. "It sounded like a growl," Liam said, his eyes darting around nervously. "Shut up, Liam," Jared snapped. He glared at Anna. "What's in your cellar?" Nothing. Roots, preserves, just old things. Open it." "Jared, don't. It's full of spiders." Jared's patience snapped. "I said open it!" He shoved her aside. Anna fell, hitting her head on the corner of the table. She cried out, a sharp burst of pain, and the cabin exploded. The cellar door was ripped from its hinges, the wood splintering as it flew across the room and embedded itself in the wall. Kaelin erupted from the darkness. He was not the weak, poisoned man from moments before. This was the Alpha King. His blue eyes were blazing with a silver fire, his fangs were partially extended, and his face was a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Ben and Liam screamed. They were wolves, but this was something else. This was a predator. Jared, to his credit, stood his ground, though his face had gone a sickly white. "Who in the hell are you?" Kaelin didn't answer. He moved. He was a black blur. He grabbed Jared by the throat and slammed him against the wall, lifting him 2 feet off the ground. Jared's feet kicked uselessly. "You touch her again," Kaelin snarled, his voice a promise of death. "And I will tear your throat out with my teeth." "Kaelin, no!" Anna scrambled up, her head spinning. "Don't! If you kill him, his father, the whole pack!" Kaelin's eyes were locked on Jared, who was now clawing at the hand that was crushing his windpipe. Kaelin was lost in the rage. He saw every insult, every time this boy had hurt her. "He's not worth it," Anna pleaded, grabbing Kaelin's arm. The muscle was like steel. "He's not worth you. Please, don't become a murderer for him." Her words, her touch, broke through the red haze. Kaelin looked from Jared's terrified, purpling face to Anna's pleading one. With a final growl of disgust, he threw Jared across the room. The Alpha's son crashed into Liam and Ben, and the 3 of them went down in a heap. "Get out," Kaelin commanded, his Alpha voice washing over them, forcing them to obey. The 3 wolves scrambled to their feet, terror having replaced all their bravado. They fell over each other, trying to get out the door. "My father will hear about this," Jared shrieked as he ran. "You're dead! Both of you! You're dead!" They vanished into the woods. Silence descended, broken only by Kaelin's heavy breathing. He turned to Anna. The rage was gone, replaced by a burning intensity. He stalked toward her. Anna backed away until she hit the wall. What have you done?" "I protected you," he said, his voice raw. "You've doomed us. They'll be back. They'll bring the whole pack." "Let them come," Kaelin said. He was close now, so close. He placed his hands on the wall on either side of her head, trapping her. His blue eyes burned into hers. "He hurt you. I'm used to it." "You will never be used to it again," he vowed. "Do you understand me, Anna Thorne? No one will ever lay a hand on you in cruelty again." He was too close. She could feel the heat of his body, smell the iron and pine. Her heart was hammering, but not from fear. Not anymore. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care? I'm just a human." His eyes softened. He reached up, his calloused fingers gently touching the new bruise forming on her temple where she'd hit the table. She flinched, but his touch was impossibly gentle. "I told you," he murmured. "Compassion is a strength, and you, Anna, are the strongest person I have ever met." And then he leaned in. But it wasn't a kiss. Not yet. He buried his face in the crook of her neck, his body trembling with the adrenaline of the fight and the lingering poison. He inhaled deeply, his breath hot against her skin. "Mine," he whispered, a sound that was half growl, half groan. Anna's world tilted on its axis for the second time that day. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a statement of ownership. It was a statement of fact, a primal recognition that shook her to her very soul. The Alpha King had just claimed her. And outside, the howls of the Silver Moon pack were beginning to rise. The howls were distant, but they were growing closer. Jared was rallying his father's enforcers. "They're coming," Anna said, her voice numb. She pushed against Kaelin's chest, and to her surprise, he let her go, stepping back. The intensity was still there, but his mind was already shifting to tactics. "How many?" he asked. "Alpha Gregor keeps a contingent of 20, maybe 30, enforcers. The rest of the pack are families, crafters, not fighters." 30 against 1. Poisoned Ulfa, Kaelin mused, a grim smile playing on his lips. "The odds are almost fair." "This isn't funny," Anna cried. "They'll tear us apart." "They will not," Kaelin said, his voice hard. "They are coming for a rogue. They will find a king." He strode to her door, peering out the small window. "But you are right. A fight here is messy. It reveals my hand before I am ready. And it puts you in more danger." He turned to her, his expression all business. "Jared found a scrap of cloth. You left a trail." Anna flushed. I was panicking. I was just trying to get you to safety." "You did," he said, cutting off her apology. "Now we must undo it. They think I'm a rogue, a threat. They'll follow the trail from the river. When they find nothing but blood, they'll come here. Jared will lead them." "So what do we do? We can't run. You're still too weak and they'll hunt us." "We don't run," Kaelin said. "We delay. And we plan." He looked at her. "Anna, I need to ask you for the impossible. I need your help, not just to hide, but to fight back." "Fight? How?" "I am healing, but the silver, it's like sludge in my veins. I need to get a message to my beta. Serafina, she's at Silver Glen. If she knows I am alive and where I am, she can rally my royal guard. But she will not move without my word. I don't even know where Silver Glen is. It doesn't matter. The message is not on paper. It is different." He held up his hand. His signet ring, the one bearing the crest of the Alpha King, was gone. "I lost it in the river. It was a tracking marker, bound to my blood. But I have a failsafe." He looked around. "I need a bird, a hawk, an eagle, a raven. Anything." "There's a peregrine falcon that nests on the cliffs," Anna said. "I sometimes leave her scraps. She's a friend, I suppose." "Good." Kaelin nodded. "She will be our messenger. But first, we must deal with your Alpha." "Deal with him?" "Alpha Gregor, Jared's father. He is either a fool or he is complicit." "Complicit? In what?" "Think, Anna. Shadow Ridge is far from here, but Gregor's lands border the neutral territory where the parley was held. For Marcus's ambush to work, he would have needed to cross Silver Moon Land. He would have needed Gregor to look the other way." The implications hit Anna like a physical blow. "You think Alpha Gregor is a traitor? That he's allied with Marcus?" "I think," Kaelin said darkly, "that Gregor is an opportunist, and Marcus pays well. When Jared returns with his tale of a powerful rogue hiding in his borders, Gregor will have two choices: kill me to earn Marcus's favor, or realize his mistake and try to save himself." The howls were closer now. A deep, single howl echoed, the Alpha's summons. "They're at the river," Anna whispered, her blood running cold. "They're gathering. Good. It will take them time to search the bank and follow the trail. We have an hour, maybe 2. Kaelin fixed her with his intense gaze. "Anna, what I am about to tell you, it is the deepest secret of my bloodline. The web of our power. I am trusting you with my life, with my kingdom," he explained. The Alpha King's power was not just in his strength, but in his connection. He was linked to his pack, to his betas, in a way no normal Alpha was. He could not send a mental message this far, not while he was this weak. But he could send a beacon. I need a conduit. Something that holds my blood and my will. The Falcon will carry it. He needed a specific set of items. A king's folly, which was a rare, parasitic mushroom that grew on rotted-out oaks. Iron from the earth, a nail would do, and a drop of his own blood, given willingly. I think I know where the folly grows, Anna said, her mind racing. There's an old oak grove 2 miles north in the swamp. No, Kalen said, shaking his head. You can't. It's too dangerous. The pack is out there. They're at the river, Anna countered. That's south. The swamp is north. They won't be looking for me there, and you can't go. You're in no shape. She was right, and he hated it. Anna, you are a terrible hider, Your Majesty, she said, a small, brave smile on her face. You stay here. Bar the door. Hide in the cellar. Don't break anything else. She grabbed her foraging basket and her cloak. Be fast, he said, his voice tight with a new, unfamiliar emotion. Fear. Not for himself, but for her. I'm always fast, she said. No one ever sees the ghost. She slipped out the back window, a tiny secret exit she'd built for herself, and vanished into the woods. Kalen was left alone in the small cabin. It was maddening. He was a king, a warrior. His entire being screamed at him to be out there, to be hunting, to be fighting. Instead, he was hiding in a shack, trusting his life to a wolfless girl he'd just met. He paced the small space, the scent of her, herbs and rain, and a deep, underlying sweetness filling his lungs. He had not lied. That mine that had slipped out. It wasn't a mistake. When he had grabbed her, when he had seen the fear in her eyes, it had been a click, a sudden, violent, shattering recognition. The goddess, in her infinite, cruel wisdom, had bound his soul to this one, a wolfless human, an outcast. It was the ultimate cosmic joke, and the ultimate, terrifying, wonderful gift. He stopped pacing. His beta, lichen, the betrayal. It had been deeper than just the ambush. Lichen had been his friend, his brother. He was the one who had advised him to take only 2 guards. He was the one who had voted for the neutrality of the Silver Moon territory. Lichen, you bastard! The ambush wasn't just Marcus, it was Lichen. Lichen had sold him to Marcus, and Alpha Gregor, he was the gatekeeper. Kalen's thoughts were a storm. If Gregor was in on it, he would not be coming to investigate a rogue. He would be coming to finish a job. He would be coming to kill the king. And Anna was out there, alone, with a pack of traitors hunting her lands. He smashed his fist into the wall again, this time not caring about the noise. Anna, hurry! Anna moved like a shadow, slipping past her own pack's patrols to snatch the king's folly. Mushrooms from the swamp. She returned to the cabin just as the howls grew closer, the net tightening. They're not searching anymore, she panted. They're hunting. As I expected, Kalen's face was grim. He took the herbs, slashed his palm with a knife, and dripped his royal blood onto the fungus, binding it with an iron nail. The beacon was ready, but there was no time. Kalen's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing as he scented the air. Gregor, and he's not alone. I smell Shadow Ridge. Marcus is with him. Anna's blood ran cold. Marcus? Here? They're not here to investigate a rogue, Kalen growled, moving to stand between her and the door. They're here to finish the job, to kill me, and you as the witness. The sound of heavy boots and snarling wolves surrounded the cabin. The cellar! Anna whispered in terror. No, Kalen said, his voice pure steel. No more hiding. He turned, his blue eyes blazing with a desperate, sudden intensity. They are here to harm you, and I will raze this forest to the ground before I let them touch you. Why? She breathed. Because the goddess chose you, he said, the words a vow. You are my mate. Before Anna could even process the word, the cabin door exploded inward. Alpha Gregor, Alpha Marcus, and a vengeful Jared Stone stood there, backed by a dozen of their most brutal enforcers. The standoff had begun. The air in the ruined cabin was thick with blood. Kaelin's royal guard stood like statues of vengeance, the fight already over. Alpha Marcus was on his knees, a prisoner. Alpha Gregor was a broken man, weeping over his son's body. He was my son, Gregor wailed. He put his hands on my mate. Kaelin's voice was ice. His death was a mercy. He turned to Marcus, who spat in defiance. Lycan will finish this. Seraphina, Kaelin's beta, stepped from the shadows, wiping her blade. The falcon found me, Your Majesty. While we flew, word was sent. Lycan's conspiracy failed. He was arrested in the capital an hour ago. The colour drained from Marcus's face. He was alone. You are guilty of high treason, Kaelin said. My justice is swift. He nodded. Seraphina moved, and Marcus's treachery ended with a silent, bloody finality. Kaelin then faced Gregor, who was now begging. Please, mercy, I was forced. You were paid, Kaelin corrected, his voice full of contempt. You allowed this ambush on your land. You are a disgrace. He delivered his sentence, not of death, but of a fate far crueler. You are exiled. You will be stripped of your rank, your name, and your wolf. You will live out your days as a human outcast, just as you forced her to live. As his guards dragged the screaming Gregor away, Kaelin's iron control finally broke. The silver poisoning and his wounds surged back, and he staggered, collapsing. Seraphina caught him, her eyes wide with alarm. My king, you're burning! Kaelin's gaze found Anna. He grabbed his beta's arm, his voice a raw command. She is my mate, my Luna. And then the Alpha King, his enemies defeated, fell into darkness. Kaelin woke to the smell of herbs, not in the cabin, but in a royal campaign tent. He was clean, bandaged, and the silver's fire was gone. Anna was there, grinding herbs in a bowl. The fear that had lived in her eyes was gone, replaced by a steady, quiet strength. You've been unconscious for 3 days, she said, offering him water. Your beta, Seraphina, is efficient. She's taken control of the Silver Moon pack. She also thinks you're insane. As if summoned, Seraphina entered, her face a mask of stone. Your Majesty, she said, bowing stiffly. You are recovered. We must discuss the issue. There is no issue, Kaelin said, sitting up. She is wolfless, Seraphina burst out, her control cracking. A human. She cannot lead a hunt. She cannot bear a true heir. She cannot hold the pack. The bond must be a fever dream. Kaelin rose, his royal power returning with every second. He walked to Anna's side, taking the bowl from her hands. She held me, he said, his voice resonating with a quiet fury. When my own pack failed, she pulled me from the river. When you were all searching for a ghost, she healed me. She faced down 2 alphas and an army with nothing but her human courage. He faced his beta. We have valued only the strength of the fang, and for that I was betrayed by my own kind. We forgot the strength of compassion. Anna has a spine of iron. She is not just a human. She is my Luna, and she will be your queen. Seraphina stared at Anna, truly seeing the woman who had not flinched. The proud, scarred warrior slowly knelt. My queen, she vowed. The rest of the council followed. Kaelin took Anna's hand. They will test you, he murmured. Anna looked at the kneeling warriors, the ghost of the cabin finally gone. Let them, she said, her voice clear. I'm not afraid of wolves. And so, the wolfless girl, became the queen of all wolves. Anna's story is a reminder that the greatest strength doesn't always come from the sharpest claws or the loudest howl. Sometimes, true power lies in the quiet courage to show compassion in a world that has shown you none. It's the strength to heal, to stand up, and to love, even when you are underestimated. What did you think of Anna and Kaelin's story? What part was your favorite? Was it the moment she pulled him from the river, or the second he stood up to defend her? Let me know in the comments below. Your stories and your feedback are what keep this channel alive. If you loved this journey of drama, justice, and unexpected love, please show your support. Hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. We have so many more stories to tell, and I don't want you to miss a single one. Thank you for listening.